Shalom and welcome back to Trade Languages. Until last night I was unsure about what I wanted to talk about this week, but I made this video in my dream last night. So quite funnily enough, we're talking about Kurdish, which came to me in a dream. But without further ado, let's move on to what we wanted to talk about. So Kurdish is a collection of languages and or dialects. It's a bit contested, we'll talk a bit more about that. The ethnic Kurds speak a number of languages. One of these is Zaza-Gorani. Well, it's two languages actually, Zazani and Gorani, but they're not Kurdish, yet a lot of ethnic Kurds actually speak them. The main Kurdish languages, however, are the three ones that are sometimes called Northern, Central and Southern Kurdish, but they're colloquially called Kurmanji, Sorani and Pehlwani or Xwarig. There's also a number of mixed dialects which are currently being argued by linguists to be separate languages, such as Laki and Kurdali. We're going to be focusing on Kurmanji, Sorani and Southern Kurdish in this video. I'd also like to mention, just to clear up the history of the Kurds, a lot of people don't realise they're descended from the Medians, or the Medes rather. The Median Empire was a short-lived empire in ancient times. I believe it got conquered by the Persians and later by Alexander the Great. It was the last time that there was a really big Kurdish empire. The Greeks also called the region Korduene. And as you can see by this, Zaza-Gorani languages are related to Kurdish. They're just not directly related, they have a common ancestor with Median. Yet a lot of ethnic Kurds, I'm talking in the millions, still do speak these languages. But let's move on to Kurmanji for now. So Kurmanji, also known as Northern Kurdish, is the dark green on this map. It's the most widely spoken Kurdish language, as you can see. It's being spoken with an enclave in northern Iran, but then having the main community in Mesopotamia. It's also called Kurmanji in its actual language itself. It has 15.7 million overall speakers, which is absolutely mind-blowing, and it's got several dialects that are spoken across this area of land. Here's the map again. You can sort of visualize where it is. I gave general geographic locations so you can hopefully understand exactly where the dialects are. Here's the phonology of Kurdish as a whole, but the consonants that are in black are specifically Kurmanji. This is because Kurmanji makes a distinction between palatalization, labialization and pharyngealization, which as you can see is the small H, W and gamma that you can see next to the letter that modifies the sound of it slightly. As for the vowels, this is the vowels of all the Kurdish languages again, but here's a chart that shows specifically Kurmanji. For example, they're lacking a distinction between a short and long R, and they're lacking a distinction between a short and long O as well, they just have O. Finally, they write their language in the Latin script. Ironically, it is derived from Turkish. As you can see, there are definitely Turkish influences in this script, with the exception of letters such as Q, W and X, which, not so fun fact, for a time was banned by the Turkish government in an attempt to suppress the Kurdish people. That law is no longer in effect, however. So finally, let's look at an example of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in Kurmanji Kurdish. Again, you get a look at this Latin script. It's called the Hawar Latin script, and this is the UDHR again. So let's move on to Sorani. So Sorani is the next big Kurdish language. It's the one that's in a sort of medium green color here, and it's spoken mainly in western Iran, eastern Iraq. As you'll notice, northern Iraq right there shares both Kurmanji and Sorani. Despite this, Sorani is more widely spoken there, as the population of Sorani speakers is much higher. So Sorani is written like that in the Sorani script. It has somewhere between 6 to 8 million speakers, though the number is not exactly known, and it's the main language of Iraqi Kurdistan. It's the official language that the semi-autonomous government in Iraqi Kurdistan use. We have specifically their phonology here. We can see that they contain some extra phonemes but lack that pharyngealization, labialization and palatalization which Kurmanji has. And as for the vowels, we also have a demonstration of this. You can see that they have a few more than Kurmanji does. They have their own script, which is derived from the Arabic script. Anyone familiar with the Arabic script can see the differences. For example, they have something that looks a bit like a breve accent over some of the letters, which changes the vowel sound, or in the case of lam, it changes it to a dark L. They also have a rather ingenious way of representing the letter V, or V as they call it, which looks like the normal letter F, but with 3 dots on top of it. Sadly, I could not find a Romanized version of this, but it is the same script. I can somewhat read Arabic script, so I can confirm it's the same. It's the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In fact, the first 6 words are very, very similar, but the difference is instead of it saying di waqar in the Kurmanji version, it says du hakar. Let me know if you can understand this, if you read Arabic script, and tell me any other differences I might have missed. But for now, we're going to move on to the final Kurdish language of today. So the other main Kurdish language is one that's only recently been classified by linguists in the last couple of decades or so, and it's just called Southern Kurdish. We'll get onto the nomenclature of it in a second. As you can see, it has the main community in western Iran and a tiny bit of eastern Iraq, and then there's also another exclave community up in northern Iran. Until very recently, this was just considered Sorani. It's got different names. As you can see at the top, there's 2 names in the Arabic script. They read Kurdi Bashuri and Kurdi Xwarig. And there's the other names, Pehlawani, which is, I believe, the Kurdish equivalent of Pahlavi in Persian, Xwarig, and Southern Kurdish. This is the area which shows some of the different dialects, and classifying it has been difficult. It's very different in a lot of ways to Sorani, from what I've heard, but I can't seem to find much evidence of those differences. Most of the speakers consider themselves to just be Kurdish speakers. They don't really have a standardized name for themselves. Some of them even use the name of their own village, which is why the evidence for this is difficult, to say the least. It has 3.7 million speakers though, according to Iranian statistics. The amount in Iraq is unknown. And again, getting information out of Iran can be difficult. It doesn't seem to be written down very often. It seems to exist mainly as a spoken language. They'll use Sorani if they want to write, so sadly I wasn't able to find any samples either. Although apparently, according to Wikipedia, trust that source if you will, it does have 1 extra letter that Sorani doesn't, which is the Arabic letter Waw with 2 dots on it. I couldn't find what that represents, however. I think it might represent the extra vowel that they have, which we'll look at in a second. They also palatalize their N when it comes before palatalized consonants such as S or Z. Again, according to Wikipedia, trust that source if you will. As we can see, they have 4 extra vowels that no other Kurdish languages have. Again, I can't confirm this, but I think the Arabic letter Waw with 2 dots on the top is the same as the letter U with a diaeresis on the top to represent that extra vowel. Sadly, I couldn't find any samples at all of this language. I looked online on a few different places. It doesn't seem to be written down very often. It seems to be mainly used as a spoken language. So, what does this all mean for the future of Kurdish? I'm not here to talk about the politics of the future Kurdish state, but I can tell you that Kurdish nationalism, if it wants to move forward in a progressive way, should probably try and standardize their languages. I'm not talking about standardizing them into one, but at least using the same script might be a start. The Kurdish Academy of Language has released a standardized script meant to write all Kurdish languages and dialects, and it seems to be based a little bit more off English than the ironic Turkish basis, given that Turkey does not really treat Kurds very well. This is called the Alfabe Yekgirtu. Who knows, we might see a huge push forwards for standardization in the future, and if a Kurdish state ever comes into existence, it'll be really interesting to see what they do with the language. It could very much be like Hebrew, where things start to get quite strongly standardized once the state is born. Anyway, as I said, I don't want to delve into politics right now. That's why I have this channel. I plan on making a video about Kurdistan very soon, so stay tuned, subscribe to Politics with the Aya, put the notifications on, and hopefully the video will come soon. But for now, thank you for watching. Do consider subscribing to this channel also, and if you enjoyed the video, please let me know down in the comments what you think of Kurdish. Does anybody speak Kurdish here? Please let me know, I'd be very interested. Thank you once again, I'll see you next week, and yalla.